Yeah, hello guys. We will wait for another 5 minutes. Okay. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Elevating Drone Operations, the Power of Drone Dogs and Australian BVLOS approval. My name is Lu Mingxu. I'm the DJI solution engineer for the ANZ regions, mainly responsible for the technical side. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar focused on the BVLOS operations in Australia. And also, we have another speaker for today's webinar. Hello, Jackie. Could you please make a quick self-introduction for everyone?
Oh, hi. Is it because my last name is really hard, Lumen? So, hi, I'm Jackie Dumovich. I'm the CEO and founder of Hobby UAV.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. And for today's session, we will be focusing on DJI Dock 2, discussing its unique features and Australian BVLOS. Our session will be divided into three main parts. Firstly, I will start with a brief introduction and an in-depth overview of the DJI Dock 2. Following my presentation, we will hear from the Hobby UAV team, who will share their insights into Australia's BVLOS regulations and the current landscape of the BVLOS operations. And after that, we will have a Q&A session. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and we will do our best to address them. We hope this session provides you a better understanding of the DJI Dock 2 as well as BVLOS in Australia. So let's just start from the beginning. So next one. So this is the timeline for the dock system. We launched Dock 1 in 2023 in April, and it's our first drone in the box automated solution. The Dock 1 can only be compatible with M30T dock version. We are so lucky to receive the first Dock 2 at very early stage in the beginning of this year, and we start the beta test with our partners in March to make sure that everything goes well. And before we officially commercialize it, and it finally we officially launched the dock in April. So next, speaking of the key scenarios, it achieves great success in security patrol, search and rescue, and also the first responder. And then obviously we have the the asset inspection scenario and etc. But I have to admit a little bit more. We have something like the limitation from the geospatial side. We understand that some end users really looking forward to something that can also map rather than just focusing on the inspection parts. That's why we released DJI Dock 2 in this year. So next one. So what's the main difference between dock units themselves? As you can see, the dimension is really attractive improvement. It's about just half the footprint of the dock 1. And you can see the weights, 34 kilograms compared to 105 kilograms. And now it's feasible for just one person to lift it up and deploy it anywhere you want. And then you can then mount it to max operation range up to 10 kilometers compared to 7 kilometers. And for the return to sender system, we replace the previous pulling system from the push rods to now a V-shape in the middle of the landing port. Besides of that, we are now using a wireless charging system to improve efficiencies as well as the safety. So something improvements not just on the size, but also making this simpler so that it can perform in more harsh environments. So next one. You can see that the new models of the drone were specifically for the Dock 2 are Matrix 3D and the Matrix 3TD. The size is significantly smaller compared with the M30T. So the weight is just, you can see that's just 1410 grams, but flight time is able to up to 50 minutes. It does not have folding arms like the Mavic 3 Enterprise series. And that rigidity helps a little bit in wind resistance, as well as having that assists with a little bit more max flight time. And also we have a higher IP rating compared to the Mavic 3 Enterprise, which is IP54. And speaking of the camera with the standard matrix 3D, we have the wide camera of a 4/3-inch CMOS 20 megapixel sensor capturing at 0.7 seconds with a mechanical shutter as well. And if you are looking for implementing really accurate mapping with an autonomous solution, that is now really up your alley. you can see that the specs of the M3D camera is exactly identical to that of the M3Es. So, yeah, next one. So overall, so how is Dock 2 different from the Dock 1? First of all, lightweight, the size is smaller, not just easy to deploy, but also easy to ship it. For the AP level, we have AP 55 for the dock and AP 54 for the drone, which means now the whole system is more robust even in difficult environments. Efficiency. The flight time is upgraded to 50 minutes, being able to perform large mapping session and also being able to do long periods patrol. 45 minutes to take off, just one click, and the drone can initiate the mission that you require. Accuracy. Now we have the drone using the timestamp to take the images with RTK as well as large mechanical sensor. Everything you need to do the mapping. Nowadays, the deployment and the maintenance will be rather easy as well. So all these core components are modular, so which means it's very easy to replace or just like to fix it up. And next one. So speaking of the use case overview, when we talk about the Doc 1 application, most use cases are focusing on like the public safety and inspection with the, by using the thermal camera. But for the Doc 2, we can go either mapping or public safety and or the inspection depending on the drone that you are looking. In Australia, we have not only successfully deployed the digital Doc 2 in mining applications, enabling tasks like the stockpile measurement or like something like pit surveying, but we have also made considerable progress in agriculture. For instance, we are using the Doc 2 for bird scaring or something like the fence inspection, bringing greater efficiency and automation to these areas. Additionally, we are expanding into sectors as well. If you are interested in exploring more, I encourage you to check out our previous webinars where we cover these applications in details. Of course, all these advancements rely on careful regulatory approvals to ensure compliance with local standards. And next. So speaking of the BVLOS operations in Australia, as we, I would like to emphasize a few important aspects shown on this slides. So firstly, Australia is a member of the GEROS community, which plays a key role in developing global standardized framework for drone operations. So in Australia, like many other countries, we use the SORA, or is the it's called the specific operation risk assessment framework to evaluate the authorized BVLOS operations. So this framework ensures that high-risk drone operations, including the BVLOS, and also conducted safely and responsibly. So however, SORA application is not so easy. It involves complex set of assessments, including like the risk management, safety analysis, and the various operational requirements. They are very difficult for most operators to fulfill independently. So so securing the BVLOS approval is also absolutely essential, especially for the applications of the digital dog. The dog advanced the capabilities such as the fully autonomous operation, remote monitoring, and wide-ranging application across industries are only possible with the BVLOS authorization. So the BVLOS compliance unlocks the full potential of the dog, enabling it to operate more efficiently and safely beyond the line of the sight of a human operator. So to support our users in this journey, so DJI is proud to work with the Huawei UAV, a trusted compliance partner in Australia. So if you are interested in exploring BVLOS applications for your business or need help with the compliance process, Huawei UAV is here to provide the expertise and support needed to bring this innovation to you. And now I will hand over the presentation to Huawei UAV.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Perfect. So good morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Firstly, I'd like to really extend a heartfelt thank you to Lumen and the DGI team for hosting this event. It's fantastic to see industry come together like this and share so much knowledge, share innovation, and drive forward the potential of drone technology. I'm honoured to be here today, and I'm looking forward to all discussing the power of drone docs and beyond visual line of sight approvals. Let's click on the slide. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to take a deep dive into some important aspects of incorporating drones into operational frameworks, specifically focusing on drone-in-the-box models. We're going to look at the key considerations for running successful drone-in-the-box trials and how to integrate this technology into your existing operations. We're also going to examine approvals needed for a smooth transition to BVLOS remote operations. Additionally, to these insights, I'm also going to be excited to introduce SORA-Mate. This is an online platform that we've developed for end users and operators to simplify the complex operation risk assessment, or the SORA process. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough for the tool and show you how it streamlines these steps involved in obtaining these necessary approvals. To give you a bit of a background into Hover, we've been around now for 9 years, supporting organisations globally with the intricacies of different drone approvals and compliance management. Our team have been so fortunate enough to work on some world's most pioneering projects, from drone delivery to long-range BVLOS missions to some of the earliest remote operations drone-in-the-box approvals as well. This experience has been invaluable, and we're thrilled to be able to share with you some of what we have learnt as well. There'll also be some time at the end for questions, so feel free to jot in the questions tab. I know the chat's not working, but the questions, you can go in and we can have a discussion at the end of any questions. So let's dive in. As we dive into the topic of drone docs and beyond visual line of sight approvals, it's really important to set the stage. Recognize how dynamic and fast-paced this industry truly is. While the concept of BVLOS and drone-in-the-boxes technology has been around for several years, we're really at that tipping point where the potential for these systems is truly taking flight. The adoption of these drone-in-a-box are expected to accelerate rapidly over the next few years, reshaping a range of industries and applications. Let's look at some powerful statistics now, just to show the significance of the growth is projected to be. The global drone market is forecasted to reach $54.6 billion by 2030. This growth isn't just theoretical. It's been driven by real applications across so many areas, from mapping, surveying, inspections, photography, filming, and many more. These applications are currently leading the areas where drones are adding value and transforming how they do operations. Closer to home, the RPAS, or the remotely piloted aircraft system sector, has actually now become the largest aviation sector in Australia, and its growth is showing no signs of slowing down. It's predicted that commercial drone flights in Australia will increase by an average of 20% annually over the next 20 years, leading to about an estimated 60 million flights by 2043. This incredible growth in the commercial flights really signals the expanding role that drones are going to play in everyday lives, and underscores really the importance of drone-in-the-box and BVLOS capabilities in supporting this future. Despite this trajectory, there are still challenges, as we all see as industry stakeholders, we need to address. Regulatory wait times for approvals continue to be a major hurdle, including the fast-paced, which is really impacting that fast-paced companies can innovate, and expand their operations. This is where hopefully platforms like SORA-Mate can come in, and I'm really excited to share with you this at the end of the presentation as well, and really hopefully help and streamline those approval processes and help operators navigate the regulatory requirements efficiently. These figures and trends highlight both the massive opportunity and the challenges that we are going to face ahead. It's an exciting time to be involved in the industry, and I'm really looking forward to sharing more about the practical steps and considerations of introducing drone-in-the-box technology. Let's explore now how we can harness the potential and shape this future of the drone industry. You know, incorporating drone-in-the-box technology into your operation, you know, it really involves careful planning and strategic thinking. Before you even consider going, you know what, I'm going to start a trial, or, you know, really incorporate, you know, moving towards that beyond visual line of sight, it's really, really essential to have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve. You know, where do you want to operate, what equipment you'll use, and that's not just the drone, what other equipment, communications and everything you'll need as well, and how you plan to conduct your operation safely. You know, the foundation document for that information is something that, you know, we often refer to as a CONOPS, or the concept of operations. When you're defining your concept of operation, it might seem really overwhelming, you know, or you might feel that it's really incomplete when you're working through it. But this process is iterative, so you can work through it, and, you know, as you go through it, you might identify areas that, oh, that's actually a higher risk than I was expecting. So you might need to make adjustments, like with flight heights, or, you know, you might need to move it a little bit away further from the airport, or whatever it may. You can go back and, you know, rechange that concept of operations to make sure you can, you know, complete a very robust safety case. Often I suggest starting small and building up to full-scale operations when you gain more experience is definitely a sensible approach. Hobby UAV, you know, I know Lumen mentioned, we specialise in, you know, helping clients with trials and testings and completing their concept of operations, and hopefully filling those gaps that people need to ensure the operational feasibility. Over the last 6 months, we have been really fortunate to work with some of, you know, Australia's, you know, main companies and run multiple drone-in-the-box trials, both on the Dock 1 and the Dock 2. Most of these have been for utility companies, you know, that really looking at those, you know, those substation and those feeder lines. We've been lucky to work with multiple farmers, even Luke, and doing, you know, cattle mustering, and see if we can do that remotely from, you know, comfort of an office. And also, you know, looking at inspections and, you know, capture, volumetric capture on mine sites as well. These trials are not just about looking, and they're more than just testing that feasibility. You know, they're involved in assessing what the infrastructure needs on those sites or by that organisation. They're looking at, you know, how will they, you know, operationally integrate with, you know, other internal drone operations they might be operating, but also contractors. So if you've got, you know, multiple BVLOS operations, what does that look like? And also we need to look at, during trials, there's a lot about the change management and how you manage emergency response. So, you know, what other things within your organization, you know, who are the key people? Like if you're not flying from that site, you know, what additional personnel or what involvement? And they've also looked at it from the perspective, if you've got a contractor working on your, you know, your site as well, what do you need to do from a company perspective to ensure that it's safe? Or, you know, are you managing the maintenance because they're not on site, or are you managing their emergency response? So a lot of our trials are sort of based on that as well. Look, I know, Lumen, you've probably seen lots of different so just give me 2 seconds. Sorry about that. We just had a bit of a technical difficulties, but, you know, look, and we're going to look about, you know, we've already mentioned, and through different webinars, and Lumen mentioned, there's so many different benefits for drone-in-the-box. You know, the DJI Dock is plug and play. You know, it's really easy to use. It enables more cost-effective operations. We're starting to see, automated flights. It's great for those isolated locations. So, if you can't, constantly, it's, like a lot of work health and safety or many issues to, get out to that site. It's a great opportunity to, fly remotely. We also, they do automated battery management and things, so that automatically recharges those batteries. And also you don't need to go and remove, so a lot of the data management is already in place. And it's also just a little house, like it's a little home for the drone as well. It keeps the dust, and it keeps it secure and monitoring as well. And also it allows you to do the multi-dock setup as well. Let me just flick the next screen. So there's many considerations that we need to take into place as well. And we've learned a lot through these different trials. So network stability for these operations, is really important. So, we've often faced that out when we were with, out on the farms and things like that. LTE might not be the best option, where you might need to look at, to see, do you need to incorporate satellite, like, or Starlink or something like that. We really recommend when people, you're considering incorporating drone in the box, the first thing you should go out and do, is also look at the speed test. What is the reliability of that network, not just for the site, but also from where you're going to operate as well. Also with new technology and hardware, you need to check your environment. A lot of the trials that we conducted for these clients were up northern Queensland, often in very, hot and humid, where lots of storms, and also sometimes on the mine sites, can be very dusty. So it's really important to, make sure that, the HVAC systems or whatever the systems are on board, or the seals are going to work for your site as well, because you might need to do, some amendments to make that work. The RPA range definitely gets affected. I'm going to talk about that very, very shortly. And also the ground control station for drone in the box. So ground control systems for drone in the box applications, are still evolving, but with limited functionality sometimes from the manufacturer specification. There is more and more of choices for flight control software that many of you are starting to see, and trial as well, that are linked to the DJI Dock 2. It's a definite consideration. You need to ensure that that software allows you to do what the intended mission is, and also has enough adequate fail-safes features, including, how it returns to home, does it return via a specific part, or does it go directly, which might be over a no-fly zone. Also, really got to check that the software has been fully integrated with that as well, with the platform. Regulatory compliance challenges, this is not an unknown issue, and I believe there's, we're not getting much pushback on BVLOS approvals, here and many places around the world now, especially for those lower risk operations like a SAIL 1 or 2 from the SORA risk assessment. However, one thing we're seeing both here in Australia and other parts around the world, the regulatory issues are that there's often long wait times and things between 4 and 6 months. So it is sort of hindering the way, people are operating. The other thing, to take into consideration, you really got to look at, who's on site. Regular checks need to be done, especially depending on the environment, and how dusty or things it might be. But, what is the maintenance, and, what is that interaction of, you can be flying remotely, but there still needs to be some interaction to the equipment as well. So often when we do testings with clients, it's important that we walk through this process. So we often started testing as visual line of sight with a dock, and that's fine. You can do that at standard operating conditions. You can do that, excluded category or under a REOC, and that's where you can keep the drone within visual range, and you can ensure that you've got a clear, understanding of what's around you, and you can clear that air and ground risk by yourself. Why it's important to do these visual line of sight testing is to have an understanding of the flight paths you want to you want to do, the operating heights, and what those data capture requirements are going to be. So you might need to, go actually, for our power line inspection one, we really, we can't fly higher because we couldn't actually collect the data, so we needed to go lower, where, okay, now if we put a parachute on it, well, the parachute doesn't deploy, we might need to go higher, or, if we're doing the, captures on the mine site, we might need to be flying higher to make sure we get the right data. So it's really crucial that you have a really good understanding of that, and that can be done, with just the drone, or it can be done with the drone and the dock as well. The initial phase, this is a really valuable opportunity when you're flying visual line of sight to become familiarize your team with that software and also the operational environment. When we want to try further, there's a lot of things that sort of come up. So we look at also doing some, extended visual line of sight operations. Extended visual line of sight, for those that are not watching from Australia, it's very similar to beyond visual line of sight with a visual observer. And we find it really, highly advantageous, and there's different ways you can do this. So some of the reasons we do BVLOS to start with, we would be out on a site, for example, and we might want to test the range, which has been a large issue that we have faced through the trials. So as mentioned, some of the trials we've been doing have been, on substations, or, even on mine site, where there can be interferences from different towers, or, fences, or whatever the interference is. There could be trees around, or just the curvature of the earth. So when you fly visual line of sight, it's great. You're not getting much interference. So you go, you know what, Dock 2 can go out to 10 kilometers, great. But what you need to do when you use BVLOS, you can actually test what is going to be that feasibility. Can it actually meet that range? Often on some of those locations during the trial, we found that it could not get to the full range in that operating environment. I'm not saying the equipment can't do it, but in that operational environment. So you'd might want to start looking at things like, an antenna, like a range extender, or looking at where you want to place that box. You might need to, put it at a higher location, or, change the way the antennas are. So we find that a really crucial spot. Also, with the BVLOS, you can do BVLOS remote operations. So it's a great time for you to start trialing those BVLOS operations. And, how would that work in the communications and the interactions when you're flying, from a remote operations center, but that visual observer would be on site. So you've just got that ease of mind while you're getting familiar with those operations. BVLOS in Australia and around the world, what we're seeing is, a fairly straightforward approval process. Please reach out if you've got any questions for anywhere in the world to get those sort of approvals. But it's usually, and it's for the Australian context, they are Australia-wide approvals. So if you want to, open a new drone in the box at a new area or something like that, you can do that with ease. Beyond visual line of sight, it's where you've had the visual observer or a person, clearing that air and the ground risk prior. With beyond visual line of sight, you're using, your operational procedures, or you're using systems and the systems to be able to mitigate those risks on the ground. In Australia, if you want to fly beyond visual line of sight, you need to be operating in the included category. So you need to have a remote operations certificate where you gain an approval or an instrument. Also, if you're the one piloting for beyond visual line of sight, you do need additional licenses. Not everywhere in the world requires additional licenses yet, but in Australia we do. You either need a pass in the IREX, or if you're flying in non-controlled airspace, you can also get a pass in the BVLOS Octa examination. And, if anyone has any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me at any time. The process between many countries may differ slightly, but the fundamental steps are quite similar across the board as well. Remote operation centers also, from this side, don't need to be, super complex. They don't need to be a NASA control room or anything like that. I always sort of make a joke when I sort of set it up. I'm like, what? It was a Kmart setup for me, because I wanted to see what the minimal requirements were required for a remote operation center. And then, if if clients in that wanted to go even further, well, they could do that. But often a lot of the things we place in there come down to what we've identified in the safety case as required. So often many places in the world, we still have to mitigate against air risk. So how do we communicate with the air traffic? So, you know, a lot of organizations are moving to radio over IP, so you can, you know, sit in the command center and still talk to the air traffic around. So with the process and planning for BVLOS operations, you know, to achieve this, this process, and it's very, very similar around the world thing, but what we really need to look at what the preparation and what you need, you know, to put into your application is really important. So you've got all that covered, and then hopefully it streamlines that process. So we spoke about the ConOps before, so you need to have a very good understanding of what that concept of operation is. We also need to, you know, really highlight that the safety case, the SORA, or whatever sort of risk assessment you're doing is just one element of what a regulator expects to see in a BVLOS application. They would expect to see, you know, your operational procedures, your internal training, you know, any site-specific procedures as well. They would want to, you know, an extensive, you know, how you're going to manage your stakeholders. They would like to see, you know, an emergency response plan, and any maintenance records, or how are you going to manage the maintenance when you're not on that site as well. From there, the process is, you know, you'd submit the application. In Australia, CASA have actually really great, you know, recently developed some great resources, a BVLOS checklist that you can fill out to make sure you've covered everything. They've also done a BVLOS application form. So you then would submit that through to the regulator, and then it waits in a queue depending on what month it is, how long that would take. And then at that time, the inspector would review that and give any feedback back and forward as well. So they'd give back and forward till they're happy. Then they would release a temporary instrument for you to practice, and then come out to test those procedures as well. When you get issued your approval or your instrument, it's up to the CRP to really make sure that they understand the procedures. You know, they've changed all their compliance management to match that, and they've conducted their internal training to, you know, ensure safe BVLOS operations as well. So let's jump through to SORA-Mate. And I guess, you know, well, firstly, you know, before I start SORA-Mate, you know, HOVR's been around for a while, and what we do, we help people with that process. So, you know, if you do need help with your BVLOS approval from start to finish, you know, if you need help, we realize as well, a lot of like chief remote pilots, when they move to be, you know, this is their first BVLOS time. So we develop train the trainer packages as well. So we, you know, do guidance and PowerPoints and, you know, questions, and that train the CRP or the senior pilots or the trainers up, and then they can train internally as well. So we've definitely got support through the whole process for a chief remote pilot from beginning to end. But for those that want to be more involved, this is where SORA-Mate was developed. So SORA-Mate was developed in partnership with ANRA Technologies, and it was a part of the Emerging Aviation Technology Partnership Program through the Australian government. And it was really to, you know, standardise applications, and really, I was hoping just to assist with the wait time. So, you know, if the regulator got used to it and that there was that process, it would make things, you know, go a lot smoother. And it was really intended for the end user, and it's very intuitive, which I'm going to now stop sharing this screen and jump in and do a quick demo for you of SORA-Mate. But I'm conscious of time as well, so I'm going to move through this very quickly. But look, you know what, like, we're going through this very quickly, and I know that I speak very fast. So, you know, if any time you want further clarification, you know, myself and my team are always available to sort of help as well. So this is SORA-Mate, and one of my favorite features is, I think a lot of people, you know, they might go, oh, we want to fly here, but we don't know how to assess like a ground risk buffer or a contingency zone where you're doing that. So what we've created is, you know, a platform that you can go in and do that first, and then create a SORA. I'm not going to fill out all these gaps, or we'll be here all day. So I'm going to just quickly show you a, you know, a really quick example of, you know, how to create a KML, or, you know, with correct operational volumes to what you want to do. So the first thing you do is, you know, you would update, and you can see everything else I've got probably. to download today. But this is what we often get from someone. Hey, we want to fly in this area, and we want to fly with, and I'm going to be typing this at the same time, so we want to fly with a DJI, what do we want to fly with? The M3 DT. So we're going to fly with the Dock 2 drone, and this system is intuitive. So it's just brought up all the information of that drone, how fast it is, all the information you need to fill. And what it's done it to 1 meter at this stage. So if you see on the map, so if I'm going to say, you know what, I actually want to fly at 70 meters for this operation, it will automatically change that contingency volume in the operation, and it does all of those assessments internally. All of that maths is done for you. Look, at the moment, I've got it set up on like a basic thing like, a 1-to-1 buffer, which is quite popular for many safety cases. But let's just say that I wanted to, change that approach to how we work the ground risk buffer. Let's say we've decided to put a parachute on, or if we were flying not like a powerlift drone, we could do it as a ballistic approach. So you can go in and change that, and those calculations will automatically be done for you. But for this one, I'm just going to keep it simple because most places around the world do like that 1-to-1 buffer. But it sort of, told you, you want to fly at that height, but, this is with the contingency volume. This is sort of the location you want. From here, you can go download that KML, and then you have that KML already done for you. So now, how long do I have? Okay, this is 6 minutes. So this is creating a SORA. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what it is, but, you'd upload that KML to sort of start, and that would come up like with that operational volume as well. I've got to put some basic information like start dates and times and things like that in. And, we might say we just want to fly to, look, they say they can fly to 10 kilometers, but we might, want to be a little bit extra cautious and say we're just going to fly to 8 kilometers. And for this, we've said we're going to fly at 70 meters with a max altitude meters of, let's say, 110 it was. And at any time you can use screenshots, like it automatically pulls this up. So there's not a lot of copy and pasting and things like that. Then all of the DJI dock information is already being worked out for you. So if we want to select here, the DJI M3 DT, all of the information for the dock will automatically come up into this, pictures, all the descriptions. So a lot of that manufacturer information is already programmed in. One of the bits that I really love about the SORA-Mate, so I'm not going to fill all these gaps out, but if you're working through this and you're going, oh, like what the hell is command and control? So you can click on the info button and it will come up with all of the information that, is provided from the JARIS. So you gives you an idea of how to fill that out. But we're taking it one step further, and this is sort of where it'll be customized for different countries as well, that you can use template data. So you could use this and then go and fill it out for you, but it gives you an idea of what sort of information you would be, you would be filling out. So it really helps with that process. Also, look, when we're moving to say the population density and you want to fill this information out, you can use the template. But all of the data is already inbuilt. So we've got layers, and then we can put population density up. So the population density here, I can click on it, and the population density will come up for all the different locations. So if you're trying to work out that different risk, you can move things because you have that information. Another thing you can easily do is let's have a look what the landing sites are, and let's see any Class C airspace. So we click on those. And as we scroll out, let me just click off those, you will start to see that all of the air data, from around the thing, and you can see controlled airspace and everything is written as well. So you can utilize that when, looking at your airspace, or you communicate, like filling out all the information. Then once all that information is put, you start the SORA assessment. It will just be thinking in the background, it's doing all the math for you. It's working out what your ground risk is, what your air risk is, and, from this, you can, it's automatically worked out, what is the population density. You can change a few things, like if you're over gatherings of people or controlled area, if you're not sure what it is, it explains it with the info session as well. And then you can put any mitigations in. So let's just say we've decided to use a mitigation. If you're not sure what they are, you can use the info button as well, the same thing. So we can go let's just say we do decide we want to, people are going to be sheltered, then we can use the demonstration button, still the same, using the template data and customizing it to yourself. So that can be utilized. It then works out, we started with an intrinsic risk of 4, but because I've only taken a -1, it'll take it to a 3. The system's automatically set up, so if you tried to -10, it's not going to take you to a minus number. It already knows the rules of the SORA, and that, it can only go to that specific number for that operation. The same with the air risk. It's exactly the same. It will automatically determine where you're going to be, and this one is in the uncontrolled. You can change it at any time if you know that it's you want to change it and you go, actually I think it's a higher risk, and then you can put the reason why. You can put different mitigations in, and at the end, it's saying we're an air risk class B, and I can say, yep, I agree, that's an air risk class B. Then all the tactical mitigations will come up. Let's just say I go, it was a C. All the data automatically gets changed for you for that. I'm just going to leave it as a B. I'm going to just really flick through quickly just to show you what the end will look like. From now, it will look at the containment and the area around automatically, like all the other stuff, does all the maths for you and works out what, based on your operational volume, how far do you need to look into your containment, and then what integrity and assurance level do you need for those containment volumes. Then it will tell you what SAIL level. It's the first time tell me it's SAIL 2, then it will work on the safety objectives. A lot of these are already pre-programmed in for you and have template data. You can change them at any time if you want to, show that you meet a higher one. And just the same as everything else, let's go to this one, it will have template data if you're unsure of what to use. Once you've completed all those safety objectives, it gives you, a summary of everything in a very great way that, the regulators can understand. It's pictures and diagrams and really explains, that process of what you've gone through to develop that safety case. And then from there, most places around the world still, you just need to present that as a PDF and present that to the regulator. And you can save different SORAs, and very quick and easy to use. Conscious of time, I'm going to stop sharing that and now flick back to my slide deck. Time always goes so quickly. When you have a presentation, you go, oh, you've got 30 minutes to present, and then it just goes so quickly. So we've got a real quick special because I love Christmas, and if people look at my LinkedIn today, I've already put my Christmas specials out in the year, but we do have some DGI specials as well coming up. If you click on that, so if you write in SORA for DGI, you will get 15% off the SORA-Mate project, and we'll make sure that you get all this information after as well. Really quickly, there's things with BVLOS. I'm just going to run through quickly that we often get asked as well. It's one called one-to-many, and also operations over and near people. So if you want to fly multiple drones at one time, that can be done, and it's a consideration you need when you want to start seeing more cost savings. There are approvals that you can obtain to do this, and happy to chat, in the questions about this, or, offline, feel free to reach out to me and we can walk you through that process. The same with operations over and near people. When we were at BVLOS, we automatically, say we're either a gathering people or populous area. So we automatically do a lot of that information, but there's usually additional things you need, or if you're flying visual line of sight, you might need to put a parachute on. Most places around the world are still looking at, hey, we need to, put an ASTM standard sort of parachute, like it needs to be done to a standard. Or, another mitigation that a lot of people are using is, if you're shielded and sheltered in a, vehicle or a house, or, you have that person's permission as well. So I'm going to hand back to Lumen and the team and see if there's any questions.
Yeah. If you have any questions, just feel free to drop into the chat box, and we will answer it one by one. So I see a question here. I think JK, probably you can help to answer it. So the question is, any possibility to receive assessment done here in Chile?
Sort of happy to look at it. I have not personally got one in Chile yet, but I have sort of seen, and we have actually looked at, actually some of the mine sites we work with have mine sites in Chile as well. So I have actually looked at the regulation, and it is a very similar process. And yeah, happy to sort of please reach out to us. Sort of happy to help. Often, what we do here in Australia or Canada or other places can be utilised. We can leverage on what we've done in other countries as well to help that regulator understand if they're a bit unsure of the process as well.
Okay. Another question is, if I am new to the SORA process, can I make a SORA in SORA-Mate and get it reviewed before sending it to a regulator?
Yeah. If it's a simple SORA, yeah, definitely. I mean, look, we've tried to make it intuitive to walk you through that process. We also do have some 101 guides. Look, if you think that it might be a little bit more complex, or it's multiple areas, or you're trying to do multiple drones at one time, or something like that, we do run quick SORA training as well, like a few hour training. Might just set you up to understand the foundation. So you'll understand when I talk about robustness or integrity or things like that, what is the meaning behind all of that information, and then you can create your own assessment.
Okay. So another question is, does SORA-Mate support more than one RPA?
Yeah, definitely. So we can do multiple. That was one of the things we made sure we added in. It can definitely do multiple drones at the one time. So you could select, let's just say you wanted to use the Mavic 3 as well as a drone in the box with a M350 or whatever it may be. You can put all of those drones in there. What the SOAR assessment does at this stage, it assesses the highest risk category. So if there's a larger drone, it will look at the risk to that platform, and then the rest will be included in that. Usually for the DJI products, unless you're talking the Agris and things like that, but usually for those ones that people are using more common, they're all very similar risk or come out at the same risk level, so there's not a major issue adding them in. Look, sometimes if we were doing something that might be for a flight cart, and then the BVLOS they want to do is for a Mavic 3, we might separate it out because it could be very different sales or safety objectives required for those applications. But yeah, you can easily do it with multiple.
Okay, I find out another question. I think I'm able to answer it. Do you have an API to integrate the system to another one? Remote operation? Yes, we have it. So basically, if you have your research or development crew, you can just use the cloud API to build up your own fleet management platform to control the DJI drones. Yeah, and another alternative method, if you just consider about the data or something like the images or the video, you can use another method called the cloud to clouds. Yeah, so we are also open to this one. So which means you use the DJI Flight Hub 2 to control our aircraft and to to upload all this data to your own server or your own platform, and you are able to download it from your own software rather than the Flight Hub 2. And let me see. So, okay, I found another questions. So, to use LTE or 4G with a drone in the BVLOS, do we need approval from the telecommunications career in Australia? Jackie, I think you can answer this question.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't require that at this stage. So sometimes in your safety case, depending, you might be asked for a service level agreement, or we look at what contract you're on to make sure you're going to have the bandwidth. We also sometimes bring up the telecommunication charts to make sure that you are going to have signal and diesel signal at that. But yeah, you don't need specific approvals at this stage for that. Sometimes maybe looking at the ACMA for long range BVLOS, like when you're using different bandwidths and things like that. But yeah, for not the LTE or the SAT.
Okay, another question is, CASA only allows flights within 5.5 kilometers with BVLOS. How do you get around this currently, as the DJI dogs allow flights within a 7 kilometers radius?
I'm not really sure what it means. So CASA will allow flights to any distance, so as long as that drone can do that. So when you're falling into risk level SAIL 1 or 2, you're often self-assessing to say, you know what, the manufacturer says 10 kilometers, but we've done these testings to say, yeah, at this location, we could fly to 8 kilometers. If we're unsure or someone hasn't done the testing, we often put to 90% of that range. I've never seen CASA pull it in yet. The only thing that we do find is, electronic line of sight is great for, for these docks or for other drones, usually out to about, 15 or 20 kilometers. Once it hits that, sometimes then the signal drop out. So they want to know, how you're maintaining that you've always got, decent radio frequency like communication. Then you might mix it in with LTE or satellite. But we're not seeing the restrictions. So yeah, definitely, reach out to us. We might be able to, give you some of that data so you can get further BVLOS.
Okay, I think this another question is for me. Can the dock tube be set up on the deck of like a ship, Coast Guard? Uh, Unfortunately, the answer is no, because the dock is only able to deploy it at a fixed point. So every time if you move the dock, you need to do the calibration again. So probably in the future, we will update this so that you can just mobilize the dock in the future, but not at this stage. Okay, I found out another question for you, Jackie. Can you give an example of how to integrate SORA-Mate into search and rescue operations?
Yeah. Look, I always sort of trying to think a few years ahead as well. Look, at the moment, SORA-Mate is great. It helps people walk them through that process. How eventually I can imagine SORA-Mate being effective tools, as Australia and other countries, and I'm not saying they're doing it now. BVLOS in Australia and New Zealand is still area specific at this stage. But there needs to be a search and rescue, or emergency services, or other operators. They need to be more dynamic. They're not always sure where these things are going to happen. So in the future, my vision for SORA-Mate was used as the validating tool. So an organization could go get an approval for that specific equipment and that specific risk, like a SAIL 2 with those sort of operations. And then they could use SORA-Mate to go, right, okay, we need to fly in this area. Because all the data is inbuilt, it could then validate, yes, you meet what you've already been approved. And hopefully that means you could self-assess new areas. So that is my vision for SORA-Mate, and that's how we really can, that next stage where the regulator, if it's here in CASA or anywhere in the world, that's where we think it's going to play an important part moving forward.
Okay, I still saw some questions here, but because of the time is quite limited, and I think we could only wrap up here. And thanks for your attending. So if you have any further questions, just feel free to send to us through the email, and we are able to and very keen to help you to sort it out. And thank you, guys. Thank you.
That's right. Look, thanks so much. And for everyone, look, please reach out. Like, just, yeah, like if it's not me, if I'm busy, soon it's coming up to Christmas. But, one of my team's always happy to sort of chat through and, go over the process. Or if you need, a further in depth, I know I rushed through, especially the SORA-Mate and the one-to-many operations and flying over people. Yeah, look, we've always got things, information on our LinkedIn. So, jump in and follow us and reach out if you've got any questions.
Okay. See you guys.